Hi guys, it's Friday, May 8th, I think. Yes. Yes, it is. Friday, May 8th. Sorry about that awkward start there. And this is day two of us looking at the civil rights movement from 1960 to 1968. So yesterday, there was a lot of stuff that was really positive, looking at all of the laws, getting the Civil Rights Act passed, getting the Voting Rights Act passed. But one of the things that's hard to understand about the civil rights movement, and it's really, you really want to watch that first short clip carefully, is that when you see rising expectations, but not a lot of progress made to reach those expectations, when change seems to be in reach, when change is promised and then change comes very, 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 very slow, or it's very minimal, you start to see this rise in militancy, this rise in people that advocate new tactics to get things done quickly. And we start to see a change in some of the rhetoric, a change in some of the leadership. As you still have Martin Luther King, direct confrontation, nonviolence, the inclusion in the system, for where there is a growing sentiment of some that the system will never change. And that represents the militancy, and that represents the call to Black power. So a little bit tough to do in one day, try to pick and choose what would best reflect that. So there's a short clip on the rise of militancy. And then we look at three militant groups. There's Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. And please pay attention. You don't have to watch the whole video. There's just a couple of minutes I indicated on there to understand what Malcolm X, who was the spokesperson for the Nation of Islam, what his message was. And I included just one speech, and it's only about 90 seconds, about we are Africans, right? And I included that so that you understand this idea reflected here by Malcolm X, that when he says, we're not Americans, right? And that was one of his reoccurring points of, why do we need laws to protect our civil rights? If we were citizens, wouldn't we just have those rights? Why do we need special laws? So anyways, in this speech where he gives his famous, he quips, our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock landed on us. And you see that militant attitude of, you're kidding yourself if you think you're ever going to be included in the system. The system will talk a lot, but the system's not going to actually do anything because you were never intended to be a citizen. Then for time, I had to cut something out. There's a great clip. It's a little bit it's about 10 minutes from Eyes on the Prize about SNCC, and how SNCC switched to a more militant attitude, a call for Black power, during the March Against Fear down in Mississippi. It's a real, if you're into this, it's a really good clip. You can at least read the highlights that I typed up for you. I just had to cut a couple of things out because of time. And you also hear the disenchantedness with some in the movement. Legendary Congressman John Lewis said, I left SNCC because SNCC became about slogans and rhetoric rather than direct action. And he was very despondent over this new departure from Freedom Now to Black Power. What I do want you to watch, VH1 Classic a few years ago had a series about the 1960s called Lords of the Revolution. It's good. Like, I get it. Like, it's VH1 Classic, okay. But like, it's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty hip. It's pretty rock and roll. But it does a great job of explaining why, because the Black Panther Party starts in Oakland, California. Oakland was not a de jure segregated by law place. But see that in 1966, when the Black Panther Party is formed, some of the issues that they are dealing with and why there is a great deal of discontent, even in 1966. So it's really good, and it shows this militant action of following the police around with loaded guns and observing them, and then California changes a law so you can't carry a loaded gun in public, and you see what the Panthers do. There's a real short clip on the 1967 urban riots. It's amazing that this is America in 1967. So again, with all this progress of the civil rights movement, we are seeing cities torn apart. And then the last piece, which I think is really important because it's one of those moments where sports matters. The 1968 Olympics is in Mexico City in September. So here we are. We talked about Jackie Robinson integrating baseball in 1947. We talked about Harry Truman integrating the government and asking Congress for a Civil Rights Act in 1948. Brown versus Board, 1954. Civil Rights Act, 1964. Voting Rights Act, 1965. Well, here we are in September of 1968. And after winning gold and silver in the 200-meter dash, John Carlos and Tommy Smith take the podium, and you've all seen the picture where they raise the black glove. It's pretty neat, and it shows, like, nowadays they're regarded as, by many, as being pretty heroic for doing this. It cost them everything. They got thrown off the Olympic team. They lost everything. These were two of the top runners in the world. They were really vilified at that time. So I just think it was really interesting to show that there's still a great deal of discontent, even late in the civil rights movement, but also to show how expectations for athletes were back in 1968. And ended with, if you're interested, there's been a lot of really cool things put out on the 68 Olympics. Most of them are really long, or they're really copyrighted, but somehow, some way, ESPN is giving this one away. They have a little 15-minute documentary about the Australian that finished second in that 200-meter dash. His name is Peter Norman. And it's a 15-minute clip called The Third Man, because, well, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's really good. It's optional. Again, like, I know we've got time constraints, but if you are really interested in what was going on in 1968, when you see how the Australian, the third man on the podium for that famous Black Power salute, was treated, and kind of like what that perspective was, it's really neat. So if you have any interest in this, I think that's a can't miss for something to extend your learning, as that's definitely one of the most important moments, in the history of sports from a political perspective. Okay? All right, guys, enjoy and have a great weekend.